Have you ever wondered what the tribes in ancient China were like? People usually imagine ferocity only in distant jungles, but the Chinese territory was actually a mosaic of warrior communities that shaped its path. In the beginning, the region gathered hundreds of peoples, each with their own customs. In the east, there were the Taihao, or Fuxi. To the north and west, the Rong and Di. From the far north came the ancestors of the Xiongnu and Xianbei, known for their mobility and combat discipline. Through alliances and conflicts, a group led by Huangdi grew in power, with ambitions aimed at the Central Plains, a strategic zone. The tribes' names told stories. Many were named after their leaders, and the death of a chief could rename the group, signaling a new political direction. Huangdi's case is a good example. His connection to the bear totem points to roots in the Zhuolu Mountains in the northwest. Nomads by origin, they moved into the agricultural heartland and began combining trade, gathering, and herding with control over roots. From this mix of myth, land, and power emerged the structures that over time would lay the groundwork for the first centralizations, shaping what we now call China. Huangdi entered the Chinese imagination as the leader who defeated the Yan tribe and pushed back the 9 Qiu Li tribes, carving his name into the heart of the territory. His feats echoed through stories of ordinary people and heroes alike, giving shape to a collective memory focused on order. Meanwhile, along the Yangtze River, another front was taking shape. About 5,000 years ago, Hemudu and Majiabang opened the floodplains to rice cultivation. Centuries later, Liangzhu built on that legacy and linked it to the Longshan traditions from the Central Plains, creating networks that blended farming practices, rituals, and power. Around the 9th century BCE, northern groups, including Gu Wu and Yue, deepened their ties with the growing culture and politics of the time. They adopted the language, mastered alliances and warfare, built boats to navigate swamps and canals, sang their victories in poems, and refined metalworking. In this way, that arc of experiences formed a mosaic that brought together borders, techniques, and ambitions into a single story. Over the centuries, the descendants of those tribes gained influence and made their way into the center of Chinese politics. Their campaigns, especially against Chu, sparked both fame and fear. The rivalry between Wu and Yue lasted for 3 decades and ended when Gu Jian, king of Yue, defeated Wu. With the rise of Qin Shi Huangdi and the imperial unification, the lands of Wu and Yue were absorbed into Qin's vast territory, which reached as far as Guangdong. In these regions, Qin set up districts and brought local chiefs into the official hierarchy. Later, under the Han, the former Yue territory was divided into Nan-Yue in the south and Min-Yue in the southeast. Nan-Yue, ruled by Zhao Tuo, gained power for a short time before being conquered by the Han, marking yet another step in the empire's expansion over regional cultures. Like tides reshaping the coast, Chinese settlers slowly advanced over the Yue lands, pushing them into valleys and hillsides. Unlike the Xiongnu and Xianbei, Central Asian nomads who stirred up the borders, the Yue were never a threat to the empire. They lived under its orbit, focused on farming. While women tended the rice fields, men worked the land. Over time, this close coexistence led much of the group to blend into the Chinese ethnic fabric, which absorbed their skills and customs, enriching its cultural mosaic. Today, descendants of the ancient Yue are mainly found in Zhejiang and Guangdong, adapted to Chinese life without breaking from their memory. Still, some lineages connected to the Tai Kadai, such as the Shan, Muong, Dai, and Zhuang, have preserved their own languages and rituals. Some even migrated to Mon Khmer areas to escape imperial control. Through blending and preservation, their story remains alive. The Shaolin warrior monks inspire fascination by combining Zen meditation with combat practice, a legacy that has lasted for centuries. Their global reach grew through cinema and figures like Jackie Chan, who turned the monastery into an icon of martial arts. Even when movies exaggerate, the foundation remains the same: real training, living history, and purpose. In the temple, techniques arise as a spiritual path. Breaking bricks isn't about showing off, but about proving discipline, focus, and control of the mind, the core of the philosophy that guides every move. The tradition began with Bodhidharma, an Indian monk who brought to Shaolin a vision that united body and mind. His methods weren't just meant to fend off beasts and bandits. They were meditation in motion and training for the harsh mountain climate. When attacks on the monasteries grew more frequent, the practitioners refined their techniques, took up staffs and spears, and defended their grounds with discipline. That's where their fame came from. Monks remembered less for movie folklore and more for protecting their community. As for the tribes mentioned, understanding their fate helps explain the context of these struggles and shows how tradition and survival walked side by side. Across windy plateaus and dry valleys, a group of tribes formed the people that chroniclers called the Hill Dwellers. From Hami to Xing'an, they lived on the edge between agricultural kingdoms and the steppe, the Zhou frontier, where they were both feared and sought after. Since the 7th century BCE, sources grouped them under the names Rong or Hu, labels that summed up their reputation for combat and mobility. Later, Russian scholars would see in them the roots of the Tangut clans. During the Iron Age, their villages stretched from the headwaters to the middle reaches of the Yellow River and reached as far as Sichuan, linking roots, herds, and metalwork. A unique trait shaped daily life. The word of women guided both labor and warfare, while the men carried out the tasks. With Sinicization, that order faded, replaced by courtly norms. In the workshops of ancient China, artists sculpted mixed faces, blending Mongolic and Caucasian features, preserving the memory of a frontier people whose history echoes among the Tanguts, Mongols, and Xiongnu, caught between expansion and negotiation. Heirs of the Rong, the Tanguts absorbed knowledge from neighboring tribes and Tibetan nomads, also adopting Zen practices. Between the 11th and 12th centuries, they built Xixia, a state strong enough to rival China's influence. Their horsemen, famous for their discipline and endurance, powered the political machine that expanded borders and managed trade routes, gathering the remnants left by earlier civilizations. Their peak carried the seeds of decline. As victories became rarer and the courts more comfortable, the warrior class eased up on training and lost its drive, and the military system began to weaken. Without conflicts to renew its leaders and methods, Xixia exposed gaps that watchful neighbors knew how to exploit. In the 13th century, the tide turned for good. Genghis Khan united the steppe forces, imposed his strategy, and conquered the territory. The Tangut dynasty was wiped out, ending the cycle of the Rong's descendants and paving the way for a new order shaped by shifting conquests and alliances. Long before unified empires between 1766 and 1122 BCE, the state of Shanyin, also called Zhongguo, rose as a center of power. With the rise of the Zhou tribe, that rule gave way to a new order. The kings, the Wangs, starting with Wu Wang, granted land and titles to their allies, strengthening bonds but also encouraging corruption. Military training shaped the men, while women kept the household running. Over time, Zhou itself broke apart into rival fiefdoms. Intrigues and tribal clashes made war an everyday thing. Chronicles tell of cities and farmlands covered with corpses. In 260 BCE at Changping came the peak. Qin's forces captured and buried alive about 400,000 Zhao warriors. Their strategy combined the drive of young recruits at the front with the steadiness of veterans in the rear, creating a barrier strong enough to hold the line even when all seemed lost. The Xiongnu, nomadic warriors from Asia, first appeared in Chinese records in the 5th century BCE. Their raids pushed the Chinese to build fortresses that, once connected, became the Great Wall. In the 3rd century BCE, a Shan Yu unified a vast domain stretching from Mongolia to southern Siberia and from Manchuria to the Pamirs. With around 300,000 mounted archers, their fast-moving army posed a serious threat to China's war chariots. The wall, however, wasn't enough. the northern borders remained exposed. To ease the pressure, China turned to a mix of diplomacy and marriage alliances, creating bonds that blended cultures and sought lasting stability. In the second half of the 1st century BCE, the Xiongnu Confederation split apart. One faction accepted life under Chinese influence, while another pushed westward and reached Central Asia. In 93 CE, China and the Xianbei defeated the Xiongnu at the Battle of Yibai. In 155 CE, the Xianbei commander Tian Shihai dealt them another blow, and the group broke into 4 paths. One was absorbed by the Xianbei, another settled in China, a third moved toward Tabrigaite and the Black Sea, and the last advanced into the valleys of the Volga and Don rivers. Blended with Turkic and Ugric tribes, these remnants are seen by scholars as one of the roots that formed the Huns in Europe. This movement redrew borders and contact routes. Far from those wars, another kind of society thrived. In the valleys around Lugu Lake, at the foot of the Himalayas, lives the Mosuo people, where women hold the central role. They make decisions, manage resources, and pass down land from mother to daughter. In contrast to arranged marriages, they practice zohun, or walking marriage. From the age of 13, partners make discreet visits without living together or signing contracts, and the continuity of the bond matters more than any formal ceremony. A simple gesture marks the nightly visits among the Mosuo. A hook on the door holds the guest's hat and prevents any misunderstandings. From these encounters, children are born and raised in the mother's home, surrounded by relatives. Under the same roof, generations live together, and the oldest woman leads the household. Work is divided. Women handle the heavy tasks, while men take on the lighter ones. This is how a society organized around maternal lineage keeps itself woven together. In the last century, efforts to assimilate them into Chinese culture ran up against distance. Reaching the nearest city used to take a week, and that isolation slowed change, helping preserve practices that shaped their identity. Today, a new force is at play: tourism. The state sees their uniqueness as a showcase and turns their customs into spectacle. In Luo Shui, this is clear. Rituals and symbols are adapted for visitors, sometimes far removed from daily life. Yet away from the tourist routes, remote villages keep the old rhythm and pass knowledge down within the extended family. In modern China, ethnic experiences are becoming rare. Standardization policies favor urban models and push traditional groups to adapt. Between display and resistance, the Mosuo continue to negotiate their place and their future.